Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the San Ramon Virtual Town Hall on Fire Preparedness and Insurance Resources. We are so pleased today to have Councilmember Sabina Zafar join us and hosting this virtual town hall with the California Department of Insurance and California Insurance Commissioner, Ricardo Lara. Prior to beginning, I want to go over a few housekeeping for the town hall today. Audio, video, and chat will be monitored and recorded. In addition, this event is being streamed live on Facebook at www.facebook.com /insurance-CA-GOV. In addition, a recording of this town hall will be available on our website at www.insurance.ca.gov. We do respect all participants in this town hall today, and we want to create a safe space for everyone participating. In order to do so, by default, all participants will be muted and video will be disabled. Video will be on for the panelists and speakers only. Our host and moderator for this town hall is Councilmember Sabina Zafar. After her welcoming remarks and opening remarks, we will be going to Insurance Commissioner Ricardo Lara to give us an overview of California Department of Insurance and fire preparedness generally. We are also very fortunate to be joined today by Chief Wendy Collins, Assistant State Fire Marshal, who will be giving us an overview of fire preparedness, followed by a question-answer session led by Councilmember Sabina Zafar. The questions have already been submitted to us by the participants, such as yourself, which will, and after that, we are going to conclude our town hall with the closing comments from all the speakers. Please join me now in welcoming our host and moderator, Councilmember Sabina Zafar.
Thank you so much, Duria. Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you so much for joining this town hall. My name is Sabina Zafar. I'm elected to San Ramon City Council in 2018, and currently I'm serving my first term on that council. My priorities on council include transparent city government, better communication, clean air, and supporting our local businesses. In addition, I have a degree in computer and information systems, and in my day job, I'm a software architecture leader at General Electric, leading change and transformation through software in the public utilities industry. I am honored to be hosting this town hall today on fire preparedness with the California Department of Insurance Commissioner, Ricardo Lara, and an incredible group of subject matter experts and panelists, which include California Insurance Department SME Tony Signaral, Chief Wendy Collins, Assistant State Fire Marshal Chief Daniel Berlant, Assistant Deputy Director, Wildfire Planning and Engineering, and our very own Chief Paige Meyer from the San Ramon Valley Fire District. In the San Ramon Valley, we've been fortunate that we were not touched directly by the wildfires during the fire season, but our community strongly felt the effects with the poor air quality, and we had to issue several health advisories due to the smoke pollution and poor air quality in the region, with fires burning on Mount Diablo, Sonoma Regional Wilderness, and Calaveras Reservoir all around us in the fire season. As of the end of last year, over 4.2 million acres of land got burned due to wildfires in California, more than 4% of the state's roughly 100 million acres of land, making 2020 the largest wildfire season recorded in California's modern history. I have had many residents approach me concerning wildfires and mitigation strategies, and our goal is to be proactive rather than reactive when it comes to planning for the next fire season. And I welcome this very informative town hall and outreach effort by the Commissioner. As the state's consumer protection agency, the Department of Insurance assists homeowners in filing claims and maximizing their insurance benefits following a disaster. The department provides in-person help to wildfire survivors and local assistance centers, and virtual assistance via a hotline and an online chat. But before I introduce the Commissioner, I just want to give a special thanks to Chief Paige Meyer of San Ramon Valley Fire District, who is joining me today on this panel for his valuable partnership in protecting our region and deploying his team across California whenever needed to help with the wildfires. And now I would like to introduce Commissioner Lara. Commissioner Ricardo Lara is California's 8th elected insurance commissioner. As a leader of the nation's largest state consumer protection agency, he's charged with protecting California consumers. During the COVID-19 pandemic and now the devastating fires throughout the state, he's been busier than ever. The commissioner has taken many actions to protect homeowners, consumers, workers, and businesses. While businesses have encountered problems in the past following wildfires or other disasters, we have seen nothing on this scale, with thousands of businesses closed and drastically reducing payroll. Commissioner Lara is here today to provide resources and answer your questions. And now I hand it over to the Commissioner.
Thank you, Councilwoman Zafar. It's great to be here and to talk to some of your constituents from San Ramon. You know, the challenges facing the Bay Area residents are so many, not only with fires, with COVID, and just a number of issues. Actually, one of the first things when I got elected was I actually was in nearby San Rafael meeting with over 50 nonprofit organizations from San Ramon and San Rafael that service the Latino community to talk about disaster preparedness and environmental health issues due to forest fires, floods, and other disasters, not only in the Bay Area, but throughout California in a Spanish setting. So it was interesting to see so many and wanting to understand in their own language, just the need that there is and how do we better prepare ourselves. So it was great to be in San Ramon and San Rafael to talk to these organizations. Then almost exactly a year ago, we held our last in-person roundtable discussion in Contra Costa County with Supervisor Candace Anderson right before the whole world shut down and due to the threat of COVID. So it's been an interesting year to say by far. And you know, like as you mentioned, 2020 was a historic year and in more ways than one. Not only did we face and continue to face this global pandemic, but a deadly and destructive wildfire year like nothing we've seen before. And the problems that we have seen over the last decade and now increasing number of these fires are only getting worse, as our chiefs will tell you. Climate change is driving up wildfire risk areas across the state, including there in the Tri-Valley area. At the same time, insurance is becoming harder to find and more expensive for homeowners and for our business owners. So I wanna just quickly talk about helping with claims and what we can do for you if you find yourself in this precarious situation. You know, after a major wildfire, my first priority as your insurance commissioner is really to hold insurance companies accountable, to make sure that they are paying the benefits as soon as possible so that survivors can recover and rebuild. Last year, we saw some of the largest fires in California's history, as I mentioned, and climate change continues to make them much more ferocious and frequent as wildfires become part, unfortunately, of this new reality in California. After these fires, we took action as asking insurance companies to help wildfire survivors who are overwhelmed by the task of navigating the claims process, by providing up to 100% of personal property coverage limits without detailed inventory to those who suffered a total loss of their home. So what does this mean? It means that when survivors are still trying to figure out what just happened to their lives, to their property, they still have to fill out this detailed inventory of what they have lost in order for them to get some sort of resources and money back from their insurance companies. So if you can imagine having to fill out an inventory of all your possessions after a fire that has destroyed your business, your home, people are particularly vulnerable during that situation. And so insurance companies have given this relief to wildfire survivors after previous fires and have agreed to provide up to 75% or more of contents payment without having to fill out these detailed content lists. So, again, depending on where you live, insurance is getting much harder to find and more expensive to keep. Rising rates and non-renewals hurt those who least can afford it: working families, our retirees on fixed incomes, our veterans, people with disabilities, and the same people that the pandemic is already hurting. On October 19th, we held the first ever investigatory hearing with homeowners and first responders regarding home hardening. And we talked to these home hardening experts and others who have been affected to really talk about what we need to do to continue to not only safeguard our properties, but our overall communities. And after the hearing, we released data showing that there's been a 31% increase in insurance companies' non-renewals statewide from 2018 to 2019, primarily in the areas with the highest wildfire risk. I'm sure this data is not surprising to anyone. The department presented research showing the positive impact of fire mitigation, including home hardening efforts that I'm sure you're going to hear today, that policyholders and communities can take to reduce the risk of losing their homes in a fire. And this is just another step I've taken to explore regulatory actions to make insurance available and affordable for policyholders, while again preserving the competitive market following the last year's devastating wildfires. We have to say California has the largest insurance market in the country. We're around fourth in the globe. And so we have a thriving, sophisticated market that additionally has to modernize to make sure that we're protecting our consumers and providing the right incentives so that they can continue to harden their home. The information about these hearings are on our website at insurance.ca.gov, and I invite you to take a more detailed look. We know that, again, climate change is driving these extreme fires with wetter winters and hotter summers, leaving more fuel to burn, as you're gonna hear, and a fire season that is 75 days longer than we've ever had before. So I wanna see insurance companies being part of the solution instead of just non-renewing homeowners and raising rates if they have wildfire risk. And as companies have been doing for years, even before I took office, we want them to be part of the solution. Working together, we can harden homes, businesses, and communities so they are better able to survive a fire that can, not only just save lives, as we know, but the entire community infrastructure. So, this is an ongoing effort that I'm continuing to work with the governor's office, CalOES, and other partners to find solutions. I want to invite you to for you to all check out our wildfire resources page and sign up to receive updates from the department so you can join our future events and engage with us as we work on solutions on this important issue. Just quickly, before I was elected insurance commissioner, I served in the California State Senate, where I authored SB 824, which gives protection against insurance non-renewals to everyone living in an area or near a perimeter of a declared wildfire emergency. So last year we put that new law into effect for the second time. It includes a mandatory 1-year moratorium on insurance companies not renewing or canceling residential property insurance policies, bringing it to a total of 2.4 million policyholders currently covered under the statewide moratorium as a result of the 2020 fires. This law is now protecting about 150,000 policyholders in Contra Costa County alone from being non-renewed from wildfires. So again, we encourage you to be part of the solution. Last year we held 66 virtual town halls to address COVID and wildfire issues. We had over more than 22,000 participants. One of the most common questions we received was, what are people to do if they're having issues finding insurance? And so, I'm sure most of you have heard about what people are going through in terms of struggling to find insurance, and some of you may have even experienced the struggle yourself. So I want to make sure that you understand that the department is here to help you. We have various tools like the homeowners insurance finder tool that can direct consumers to companies that may be writing policies in that area. So again, we look forward to having this discussion, look forward to having a conversation about mitigation, the pandemic response, and just want to thank you for this opportunity to inviting me to participate in this afternoon and share with you some of the information and resources that we have at the department. Thank you again. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you, Commissioner. Really appreciate all the information you've shared, and I'm sure everybody listening on this webinar and Facebook really appreciates all the information. And so, and there are links in the chat which people can also find out more information. Next, I would like to introduce Assistant State Fire Marshal Wendy Collins, who's with the California Department of Forestry and Fire Protection. Wendy is a fourth generation firefighter with over 30 years of service beginning in November 1986. As a firefighter EMT with the former Fairhaven Fire Department. Wendy rose through the ranks to battalion chief, leaving the department in 2002 due to relocation. And after a short hiatus, Wendy was approached by the chief of the Blue Lake Fire Department and asked to participate with their training program. Once back in turnouts, Wendy volunteered another 10 years serving as a captain, EMT, medical training officer, and equipment officer, as well as serving as the commissioner to the Blue Lake Fire District. Additionally, she served as an active participant in the Humboldt County Fire Prevention Officers and the Humboldt County Fire Arson Investigation Unit. During her time in Humboldt, Wendy supported the Fire PALS program with costume design and construction, bringing life to the likes of Imalona, Shamrock, and Hoser, the clowns and Aqueduct, as well as costuming for life and fire safety puppets, Quack and Wabbit. In July 2008, Wendy was sworn in as the Deputy State Fire Marshal responsible for Humboldt, Del Norte, Trinity, and Siskiyou counties, where she performed plan reviews, annual and construction inspections of state-owned and leased buildings. In January 2014, Wendy was promoted to the position of Supervising Deputy State Fire Marshal for the field operations in the Sacramento, Central California area. In March 2017, Wendy accepted the position of Assistant Deputy Director of the State Fire Training, Code Development and Analysis, and Fire and Life Safety Divisions, where she has focused on vacancy rates, divisional funding, statewide code packages, technology platforms to replace aging database systems, and electronic plan review. In addition to her state fire marshal and National Fire Academy training, Wendy has had training in explosive demolition and has worked as a pyrotechnic assistant on more than 25 fireworks shows, ranging from small hand-fired shows to large electric shows and NASCAR races. Impressive. And with that, I hand it over to Chief Wendy Collins.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Zafar. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. We thank you for inviting us to participate. Again, my name is Chief Wendy Collins, Assistant State Fire Marshal with CAL FIRE, Office of the State Fire Marshal. The effects of climate change, and I'm just going to hop right in here if you don't mind. The effects of climate change, overgrown forests, and prolonged drought have resulted in unprecedented tree mortality in the state's forest, as well as an increase in the number, size, and severity of wildfires. Loss of life and structures as a direct and proximate result of wildfires is at an all-time high. In turn, CAL FIRE has set its focus upon increasing the pace and scale of fire prevention activities as a key element in our battle against the destructive and deadly wildfires. We use the state's strategic plan as our roadmap. This plan specifically calls out the importance of fire prevention. Our work to reduce the impact and threat of these wildfires has long been a part of our mission, but over the past years, we've doubled down on those efforts. In fact, since 2010, we've nearly doubled the number of acres treated by fuel reduction. We've tripled the numbers of acres treated by prescribed burning and inspected over 60,000 more homes and for defensible space clearance. And we've also facilitated over $100 million in grants for local fire prevention projects. The governor's Jan 10 proposed budget continues to make a significant investment in fire prevention. For example, the budget includes additional resources specifically designated as fuel reduction crews dedicated to removing hazardous fuels and performing prescribed burns. California's dry Mediterranean climate has lent itself to wildfires for centuries. And while we must take every step to prevent and suppress human-caused wildfires, we must also adapt to wildfires. Adapting to wildfires is a systematic approach. It means planning communities that are hardened against wildfires with fuel breaks in and around the community. It means proper evacuation routes, water supplies, and fire protection resources. It includes building homes out of ember-resistant materials by maintaining a 100-foot defensible space by removing dead and overgrown vegetation. California arguably has some of the most stringent wildland building codes in the world. Since 2008, new construction in California's wildlands requires building materials that are ember resistant. But the million-dollar question is, what about the homes built before 2008? Our Wildland Urban Interface Committee is working to update our list of low-cost retrofits for homes built before the 2008 standards went into effect. In fact, the recent code development cycle has added UL-listed garage door weather stripping and screens over skylights that were recently adopted by the California Building Standards Commission. We have our local fire prevention grant program, which has funded over 230 local fire prevention projects totaling over $100 million. These projects include fuel reduction, public education, and wildfire planning. The recipients of these grants include fire safe councils, fire districts, and other nonprofit organizations that focus on preventing the wildfires. Last year, we reviewed 340 applicants with $155 million split between forest health and fire prevention. In fact, SB 901 in 2018 authorized $1 billion in funding over 5 years for fuel reduction and fire prevention activities, and the governor has proposed extending this allocation for another 5 years. As we expand fuel reduction treatments across the state, they will undoubtedly play an increasing role during fire suppression, helping to slow or stop the advance of wildfires. California's homeowners play a key role in fire prevention. 95% of all wildland fires are caused by the activity of people. This means we absolutely need residents and visitors to be extra cautious outdoors to prevent sparking a new wildfire. Defensible space, the law is the law, but we need to educate on benefits of home hardening as well. It's proven to dramatically increase the chance of a home surviving a wildfire. We also have our California Ready for Wildfire app to prepare homes for wildfires. As the 2018 Strategic Fire Plan states, the vision is to make our natural environment more fire resilient, make our homes and infrastructure more fire resistant, and shape society's awareness of threats and of mitigations to wildland fire. So with that, I'd like to end for me and introduce Chief Daniel Berlant, who is our Assistant Deputy Director over our Wildfire Planning and Engineering Division. And we do look forward to being able to answer the questions that were provided. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate that information. So with that, I will go into a round of questions and answers. And I will start with the first question with the Commissioner. So Commissioner, the question I have is, what is the number one thing that someone should do to prepare for a wildfire?
Yeah, there is a lot of things you could do. So I would say the first thing is do your insurance tune-up which means make sure you have the coverage you need to rebuild your home to the same standard it is now. You should make sure to do this, especially if you have, done any major home improvements, for example, or you're remodeled or remodeling your home, which have increased the value of your property. Again, this is something that we can help you with. The department is here to support you. You feel free to contact us at 1-800-927-4357. Again, that's 1-800-927-4357. If you need any assistance in reviewing your coverage. I would also say, urge you to do a home inventory, which you can do. And it's, some of us that still have the privilege of being able to work from home, simply take your cell phone and start taking pictures of some of the most valuable items that you have: jewelry, musical instruments, computers, furniture, when you take these photos and you upload them to a secure cloud storage, you can then access them from anywhere, which will help after each wildfire. We hear from so many consumers that have lost all these items and that are priceless to them, but don't have any record of them. So I would also, we're supporting legislation which is now law, I should say, that would require companies to pay the significant percentage of your policy limit for those lost contents if you suffer a wildfire loss, even without the inventory. But it's always better to just make sure you have that inventory in place. So many of us, again, like I said, that have the privilege of being home, just take a moment, snap those pictures, upload them to the iCloud so you can have those ready should you need them if, God forbid, a fire happens or any other natural disaster.
Thank you. You'd think that's common sense, but as you were saying that, I'm like, okay, I need to be doing that. Thank you. I appreciate that. My next question is to Chief Collins or Chief Berland. The question is, what is defensible space? Is defensible space, PRC 4291, required on vacant lots? And if I need assistance with complying with defensible space, PRC 4291, is there help available?
So I will jump in and start answering this. Defensible space in general is the zone around your home. And typically we look at it at a minimum of 100 feet. And we're looking at the vegetation, the trees, the brush, the grass, and specifically the state requires within state responsibility area, a minimum of 100 feet of removing any dead or dying vegetation. So plants are okay. Landscaping around your home is okay. Having trees is okay. We're not looking for a bare mineral soil circle around your home, but we do want to make sure that you've removed anything that's dead, removed anything that's dying, but that you're also maintaining the remaining vegetation. And as I mentioned, trees are totally, completely fine within a defensible space zone, but you want to make sure that those trees are spaced out between each other. You want to limb up the branches. And the reason we're trying to create this spacing between the trees and between the bushes is to ensure that if a fire does occur, if it burns up to your property, that you have this zone that helps kind of reduce the spread of the fire. Most fires, especially in residential areas, are going to start on the ground, maybe off the roadway, in the grass. And if you've limbed up your trees, meaning you've cut the branches so you can almost walk completely under the tree, that fire on the ground is not going to spread to the tree as easily. This zone also really gives an opportunity for firefighters to successfully go in and do structured defense, take a stand against the fire, try to put it out. But our ultimate goal is really that the natural vegetation, by removing the dead stuff, by spacing things out, that you're going to slow down the spread of the fire. Now, in every city and every community, depending on where you live, there may be additional standards and additional requirements. So specifically, and I'll turn it to let Chief Meyer if he wants to jump in. In San Ramon Valley, there's a hazard abatement program that actually has additional components. And so, Chief, I don't know if you want to expand on anything specific within the San Ramon Valley area, but I guess I would just leave it with the Public Resources Code, PRC 4291, Councilwoman, that you mentioned, sets the state's minimum standard, but many communities go above and beyond. And so, Chief, I'll let you say if you have anything to add that is specific to the San Ramon Valley area.
Yes, no, I think ours is based on the same thoughts and policies. I think we're a little bit more aggressive on the front end, but so we follow all the same things: limbing up, 100-foot defensible structure, all the same thought process. The only good thing for us is we also have someone dedicated to come out and talk to you. And I'll talk about that later on. And I've put his contact information, our emergency preparedness manager. We'll actually go out and we have the capability to meet with those folks that are in these kind of areas where they get a little confused, as you said, Councilmember Zafar. They're not sure what to do. So use your local folks to come out and give you some direction if there's some confusion, because I think Chief put it best. People think we have to clear cut, and we don't. So if there's confusion, reach out to us. And like I said, we put it up for all attendees, the information and the person they can contact, but well said.
And one last thing on defensible space that I'll mention, here at CAL FIRE, we have a great additional website. I know San Ramon has a lot of good resources too, but I'll just plug ours, readyforwildfire.org. At readyforwildfire.org, you can learn a lot more about defensible space, some of the other fire prevention and preparedness items that we'll be talking about later today. And again, I just stress, that is the state's requirement. So if you live outside of a city and you're within CAL FIRE's jurisdiction, that does sometimes overlap with some of our fire districts. That's where that standard is. But I always would encourage you, go to your local fire department's website as well, because there may be higher standards or additional programs or services to assist you with your defensible space.
Thank you so much. I appreciate both of you chiming in on that. My third question is for the commissioner. What are some of the ways that insurance companies determine fire risk? And where does that analysis live, and how can the public access it?
That's a great question. In the past, insurance companies evaluated each home based almost entirely on its own characteristics and really condition of the house. Today, homes must first pass through its own characteristics and conditions, also pass through a filter called the fire risk score, based on satellite imagery of a region. And if you don't get a passing score, you don't get coverage. And right now, the insurance companies are not required to give you your score or allow you to appeal your score if you believe it's based on wrong information. Yet they are making these decisions and on what homes to write based on this number. So that's just not fair, in my opinion. And I want to see greater transparency for these wildfire risk score models and the ability of the consumer to appeal these scores or to take steps to mitigate your score, right? We feel that this is appropriate. So this is why just last week, I proposed new regulations that would, one, require the insurance companies to provide a consumer with their property's wildfire risk score. Two, it would recognize consumers' mitigation actions that could improve their rating, such as creating defensible space, as we talked earlier, and fire hardening. And three, it would allow time for a consumer to actually reduce their score. Why not give them the time to put these measures in place so that they can get a lower score and be able to be offered an insurance policy. Again, giving consumers their fire risk scores and the ability to lower them will incentivize their home hardening and community mitigation efforts already underway. Will be, make sure that they're better prepared for future wildfires. I'm going to be holding workshops at the end of March on my proposed wildfire risk score regulations. Following input from the public, we will begin a formal regulatory process and hopefully leading to the adoption of these new rules. I also have directed companies, insurance companies, to tell us which homes and areas are receiving areas are receiving rate increases, so that we are also increasing transparency and know where this is happening. And in almost every case, it is people living in the suburban, rural California communities who are paying the lion's share of these dramatically increasing costs of homeowners coverage. And so, wildfire mitigation and home hardening are the way, I believe, to bring down the risk of wildfires. Again, it protects the lives of residents and our first responders. And I think it ultimately will keep insurance available and affordable in our community. So first, we got to get some transparency in these fire risk scores and empower our community and our consumers to understand how to appeal their score, what their score is, and allow them to invest resources to reduce that score so that they can have an affordable insurance policy.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much for your leadership on this. I really appreciate it. My next question will be back to CAL FIRE. What is the California Building Code Chapter 7A and where does it apply?
Well, in California, as we talk about defensible space, we've had laws that require removing vegetation for decades now. But one of the things that we found in the early 2000s, where we were experiencing significant, at the time, amount of structures being destroyed by wildfires. And often it wasn't because the wildfire burned up to the building and then burned the home down. It was because embers were raining down on homes, sometimes a mile away from the actual fire. And so we really started to kind of pivot our focus from defensible space to this idea of home hardening, of the combination of defensible space and the materials that the home is built out of. So in 2008 era, we rolled out a very extensive and very large update to the building code. So starting in 2008, any home or building built in a high-risk area, a wildfire area, is required to be built to Chapter 7A. And that is a higher standard, requires building materials that are more ember resistant. Again, we're trying to make sure that when an ember rains down on a home, even in the middle of a city, a mile away, that home can withstand those embers. So Chapter 7A of the building code, which is our wildland building code, really is filled with requirements that are more stringent and that reaches the goal and works towards the goal of hardening the home. You heard the commissioner use that term. We're going to use it a lot more, here in the future as we continue to focus in on making sure that our homes are hardened, that the materials they're built out of, the siding of your home. A couple of other examples. Oftentimes, what we've seen is embers will get into the attic of your home. Our attics, our homes have vents in them to allow for airflow. Well, those vents are openings, and those embers just are like magnets to those openings. They get inside your attic, and I don't know what's inside your attic, but mine is filled with garbage and things that I don't really care about. And so they're all up there, as well as exposed building materials. And so what happens? Those embers ignite them on fire, and we see homes destroyed from the inside out. And so we're continuing to make updates to the building code. In fact, as Chief Collins mentioned, we've just this past year added some additional standards to the building codes, the weather stripping around garages. We found that garages often would have a very small gap, but enough of a gap that, especially with strong winds, an ember would get right in that gap, get into your garage and catch something on the garage on fire. So we're constantly improving on the building code, making it more stringent, using the best available technology, the best available science, the best available products to ensure our homes can really withstand wildfires. On that website, I'll plug it again, as Chief Collins put in the comments, readyforwildfire.org. We have a whole section on home hardening if you want to go there. And we'll talk about the low-cost retrofit list here in a moment, but she shared that as well. Some great resources there, but home hardening, a very critical component of your overall wildfire preparedness strategy.
Thank you. Very, very informational. I really appreciate you going into so much detail with the building code. I'll ask my next question back to the commissioner. And it's, tell us what criteria insurers use to determine whether to renew or cancel. What can homeowners do to minimize the risk of cancellation?
Thank you. Again, great question. Each insurance company creates its own list of underwriting guidelines, which homes it's willing to write or renew. Those guidelines include an array of criteria that vary from one insurer to the next, as you can imagine. And some common considerations for underwriting guidelines include the age of the home, the effective age of the plumbing, heating, electrical system, the condition of the roof, the loss of history of the applicant or the person who's asking for the policy, the fire protection rating of the local fire department, and other characteristics of the property that may create a hazard. So as I mentioned earlier, wildfire risk scores play a greater role in analyzing the fuel load, the trees, the brush and other vegetation, slope, and the accessibility to your property. I believe there should be a requirement for insurance companies to write a home that has been hardened against wildfires, and I'm pushing legislation on that. Just last month, I announced a partnership, like I said earlier, between the California Department of Insurance and Governor Gavin Newsom's administration, including the Governor's Office of Emergency Services, the California Department of Forestry and Fire Protection, CAL FIRE, and the Governor's Office of Planning and Research, and the PUC, to establish consistent statewide standards that for our home and our community, so that we all work to reduce the wildfire risk, protect lives and the property and the properties, but also help make insurance more available and affordable to its residents and its businesses. So in general, insurance companies might not renew policies because they're trying to limit the losses or are trying to limit their concentration in a specific area. Non-renewals are a growing problem in areas of our state that have high wildfire risk, and our data shows that they have, that they continue to increase due to the wildfires of the past several years. So this is something that's extremely concerning to me, that companies are non-renewing people with no consideration of their loss history or what they have done to mitigate, fire damage. And I don't think that's fair. And we're pursuing various number of solutions to that. We want to make sure that if you've invested thousands of dollars to harden your home, you've done the right thing, that you should be able to find an insurance policy to protect your asset.
Thank you very much for that. The next question comes to CAL FIRE again, Chief Collins or Berlant. I'm considering making home improvements. Where should I focus my efforts for fire preparedness, safety?
So I would say that the number one thing that we as homeowners or residents, if you have any property at all, and you can still live in the city, if you have a backyard or a front yard with vegetation, defensible space is important to you, but every year you need to maintain it. Every year you need to go and cut down the grass, limb up the trees, clean the leaves out of your gutters. Those are things that really are staples of a homeowner's responsibility. And for those who live in rural areas or in areas that abut to open space, that's not a new concept. But many of these fires are burning into much more urbanized areas, and so that's where it's really important that really, regardless of where you live, unless you are in literally downtown San Francisco or downtown LA, you really need to make sure that you are cleaning your roof off, so you don't have any leaves or pine needles or debris on your roof. That defensible space is critical. But overall in your home, the number one thing you can do if your home is built before the current building codes is the roof. However, that's very costly. Replacing a roof is anywhere from $20,000 to $30,000, but that is the number one home improvement that you can make. But there are countless others, and I think we'll talk about that in a little bit. Some ways you can do it, much cheaper. But the roof and the siding of your home are two of the most important construction items if you're doing home improvement work. But also think about fire safety if you're doing any home improvement. Let's say you have windows that are old and they fogged up, and so you're going to replace them. Don't replace your windows with single pane just because they're cheaper. Use double pane windows. It's a requirement in the building code in these high hazard areas, but everybody else should be thinking about double pane windows because it gives you an extra layer of protection to keep the heat from an approaching wildfire. Making sure that you've closed the eaves in your home. As I mentioned earlier, screening the vents and the eaves that may have any openings in your home. These are definitely home improvement things. Some of these things cost money, as I mentioned, but there's a bunch of them that just take a little bit of time and a little bit of backbreaking work maybe in the backyard. I know where I live, I've got to cut down the weeds every single year, but that really does a huge amount of effort to overall increase your fire safety just by removing that dead vegetation and making a few home improvement items around your home.
Thank you very much. So I'll take my next question back to the Commissioner. Commissioner, the next question is, can you require insurance companies to allow the policyholder to have a chance to bring their property into compliance before being dropped?
Yeah, I agree that the company should let you, should tell you what they need you to do, be able to keep your policy. And some do, I would say, but there are no specific requirements or protocols that insurance companies must follow in setting their underwriting standards beyond following the broad requirements in the law that their actions, not be unfairly discriminatory. This essentially means that they must consistently follow a set of standards, and those standards must be based on entirely objective measures of risk and not any other unrelated biases. So if you are in a situation and receive a non-renewal notice, I urge you to first call your insurance company and see if there are steps that you can do to fix the problem that they've identified and possibly keep your policy. Also, insurance companies are required to provide 75 days notice before the non-renewal of a home owner's policy goes into effect, and that's up from 45 days because of a law that our governor signed last year. Under the law, the companies have to tell you why they are not renewing you, and if your insurance company tells you that the issue is that what issue needs to be fixed, and you are available to you're able to address the issue that led to the non-renewal, the expiration date of the coverage, before the expiration of the coverage, I should say, the company should be obligated to renew the policy. But in many cases, the non-renewal is for quote unquote wildfire risk. The insurance companies do not give you enough information about what you need to do to keep your policy, and that is a big problem. So I would say, again, please contact our Department of Insurance so we can make sure the insurance company followed the law and the guidelines. Again, you can call us at 1-800-927-4357. And as I mentioned earlier, I strongly believe that insurance companies have a part to play in incentivizing homeowners and communities to manage their risk. This is a fight that we are having with the insurance industry. They oppose any premium discounts or requirement to write homes that are hardened or mitigated, or even give you a chance to address the issues before you are non-renewed. I know it's possible because some companies are already doing it, but they're definitely in the minority right now. And we're going to continue to push to make sure that either through our regulatory power or going to the legislature, that we get to a point where we mandate insurance companies to write you a policy if you've done everything to harden your home.
Thank you so much. And I think we have one last question, which I'll pose to CAL FIRE. Scientific research indicates that climate change is a factor in contributing to the increase in the number of wildfires we're seeing in California and throughout Western US. Would you please explain how climate change would have such an effect?
Yeah, we definitely are seeing a change in our climate here in California, our change in our fire seasons. As the commissioner mentioned at the opening here, a study was done out of UC Merced that looked at fire seasons over the last 4 decades and comparing the 1970s to where we are today. On average, our fire seasons are 75 days longer than they were. That means that the period of the overall the overall summer months, what is traditional summer months, the warmer months, is expanded. And so by the time we get into the later part of the year, September and October, even though that is kind of the traditional in the fire season, conditions now have had over 2 months longer to dry out. And why that's relevant is when the vegetation is drier, it obviously burns more. And by the time we get into these fall months, the fall months are when our seasons start changing. And when we go from summertime to wintertime, fall brings wind. And so wind events, the Santa Ana winds down in Los Angeles, the Diablo winds in the Bay Area, the north winds across Northern California, these winds in those later parts of the year only exacerbate the problem further. And so the fact that our fire seasons are longer based on the climate. In fact, our temperatures, in August, we had August of this past year, record-setting temperatures. And then we had a storm system in the middle of August come in with lightning, but no rain. And what that did is caused a significant amount of fires all across Northern California. And while lightning storms, do occur, maybe every decade, what is so much more different is that we're seeing these just severe weather events that are strong wind-driven fires. A lot of them now in Northern California, much earlier in the fire season, but they're much more destructive. I will also mention, though, that climate change has been a huge role in the severity of fires, but so has our forest management. And as Chief Collins mentioned at the top as well, we've done a lot to work to try to reduce the overgrown vegetation, the number of trees in our forests. Our forests are just so unhealthy that they are very susceptible to drought and bark beetles and other insects. And so it just kind of makes a snowball of effects. And so while a lot of work has been done in other avenues to address the climate change issues, here in California, we have to really continue to be prepared so that we can live with fire. Again, we're working hard to prevent it, but you can't turn around decades and decades of changing climate overnight. And so that's where we are really working hard to invest a lot of money in fire prevention activities, fuel breaks, brush clearance, helping communities plan. In fact, in the East Bay, we have granted almost $1 million, or over $1 million, to the Diablo Fire Safe Council, the East Bay Parks District, to help work on some of these fire prevention activities. And so that's where we need to continue to focus on making sure that we are addressing this wildfire issue through forest management, which we are working on, through local community projects like fuel breaks, brush clearance. But then it comes back on us as homeowners or residents to ensure that our individual properties are maintained with defensible space and home hardening, so we can really start to be more resilient and resistant towards wildfires and the changing in climates. And one thing, Councilwoman, if I can, I'll just do a quick plug. We are about to, by I think next week, roll out another round of grant money for local communities. So many fire safe councils, I mentioned Diablo Fire Safe Council that covers Alameda and Contra Costa, has been a past recipient, but we are looking for local partners, local communities to apply for those grants so that we can continue to make some investments at the local level, supporting our local fire departments, our fire safe councils, our communities to be better prepared. Because 2020, as you mentioned, was a very deadly year, a very destructive year. And with the lack of rain that we are seeing right now, nothing says that 2021 is going to be any better. And so I leave with that it's very important that we continue to address the issues of climate change, but really continue to make steps towards ensuring that we're building smart, that we're living smart by taking precautions to prevent sparking fires and ensuring that we're all prepared.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. And now I would like to ask the panelists, starting with Commissioner Lara, if you can give some closing comments.
Thank you again, Councilwoman, for inviting us to be part of this, and great to see so many of our first responders and our chiefs who are doing such fantastic work. If you're facing any insurance-related issues, I want to remind you that the California Department of Insurance is here to help you. This is our job. I know that insurance can be complicated, and it's a complicated issue, not only for your homeowners, but life, health, vehicle. We're here to help you, and be that person on your corner to help you try to make sense of it all. It even gets complicated for me, for your insurance commissioner often. So, I don't want you to feel bad. I want you to feel confident to call us in any language. We speak multiple languages, and we're there to help you. You're not going to get a recording. You're going to get a live insurance expert that is there to give you and hopefully provide you with the information that you need. Our website is insurance.ca.gov. It has many great resources for you right now, but you can also contact us directly through, again, we have a website chat function that we respond to you as soon as possible. And then also by calling us again at 1-800-927-4357. Thank you again, and please stay safe. And it's great to see you on. Hopefully I get to visit, visit you all again once this is all over in San Ramon. Thank you.
Absolutely. You have an open invitation. And Chief Collins, if you would like to close off with remarks.
I just want to thank you again for allowing Chief Berlant and I to participate in this. It's such an amazing opportunity to get out and get the message out. Obviously, when you look through the chat and all the different resources and hotlines that are available, it really takes an entire group of agencies and the community and the councils, and we all have to work together. This is such a big problem that it's just not something that an individual can fix. So I just really am encouraged by these types of forums and participation to really be able to work towards a fix. I think that as we reach out and help one another, we also end up helping ourselves. We learn from our mistakes and others, and really can work forward to fixing this issue. So once again, I thank you so much for having this forum here, and look forward to coming back whenever you ask.
Thank you so much. Chief Paige Myers, would you like to make some closing comments?
Sure. Thank you, Councilmember Zafar. First of all, CAL FIRE is best in the business, wildland. So thank you guys for coming down and spending some time with us. A lot of what we do is based on what they do. And as you know, the San Ramon Valley is definitely got its share of wildland problems and issues. So we always partner very well with them. So thank you. And thank you, Commissioner Lara, for showing up. I know you fight for, the citizens of the state. So very much appreciated by all of us. I just add a couple things just to reiterate. Ron Marley, I put the information out. We're a little bit unique here. We do show up. He's had conversations with all HOAs, individuals. We are very well aware of the stresses that go into this and the confusion. So contact us. I mean, that's what he's on staff for, emergency preparedness, and he focuses in on hazard abatement as the wildland season starts to come upon us. So take advantage of that. His information's there. He's also pushing for a FireWise program that has to be started by our community folks. So he's really pushing that message. And I think that helps with your insurance rates as well. I'm sure the commissioner would agree with that. If you can do things to show that your community is coming together, it's going to make your insurance rates go down. And then I'd also add that on our website, we've been working on evacuation plans since I've gotten here as the chief. Specifically to the Doherty Valley and San Ramon, we have 2 plans. If you look on the back of those plans, and they're on our website, if you look on the back of those plans, they detail in a very simplistic way what both chiefs were talking about as far as hardening your home, being prepared. So it's all right there, kind of one document. And we are very thankful to CAL FIRE for coming up with that document years ago. So we jumped on that, and we have that for our citizens. And then, everything that we do is based on our community safety. And I would just say this, and I think everybody's been done a great job, and I agree with everything everyone said, but there is another factor that deals with wildfires that we have ignored. And I'm just going to leave you with this quickly. PG&E, maintenance. You have an ordinance right here in San Ramon Valley that no one else has in the state that requires PG&E to tell us when they're doing dangerous work in high hazard areas. I'm hoping the rest of the state takes that ordinance and moves with it. We are being sued by PG&E, unfortunately, but we'll get through that. And we're hoping that by also not only the management of vegetation, climate change, if we can reduce those dangers, it's going to make things better. So with that, thank you very much. Appreciate you having me here today.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate Chief Collins, Chief Berlant for coming to our community virtually, and for Commissioner for really hosting this town hall here for the San Ramon Valley residents, and really, the Tri-Valley overall. Like I said, hopefully once we open back up, I hope to see all of you in person. And I really, thank you to Chief Myers. I messaged him 2 days ago. He texted back, he said, whatever you want, and he just jumped on this call. So thank you so much for being an amazing partner. With that, we're at time, so I would wrap it up. If there's anything from staff you need to say, or we are good to go.
So thank you for joining the virtual town hall, and contact us for assistance with your insurance at 1-800-927-4357. Again, it's 1-800-927-4357. Email us at insurance. On website is insurance.ca.gov. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good night.